Let's get straight to the point. Female silence is one of the most challenging experiences you can face as a man. That feeling of sending a message and seeing it was read but not replied to. Or perhaps you've noticed how she seems lively talking to everyone around her, except you. This behavior activates primitive survival mechanisms in your brain, similar to what our ancestors experienced during a hunt. It's a neurological response that transforms the seemingly unattainable into something even more desirable. Think about the last time this happened. You probably checked your phone dozens of times, imagined various scenarios, and maybe even sent multiple messages hoping to capture her attention. This reaction is understandable, but rarely effective. Like a drifting boat, you allow momentary emotions to define your course, leading you away from your true north. This is where Stoic philosophy enters as a reliable compass. Developed by Zeno of Citium in ancient Greece and later refined by brilliant minds like Seneca, Epictetus, and Marcus Aurelius, Stoicism is not just an ancient philosophical current, but a practical tool for navigating the turbulent seas of modern life, especially in relationships. The fundamental principle you need to internalize is the distinction between what is and what is not under your control. Your perceptions, judgments, and actions, totally controllable. External circumstances, including a woman's behavior towards you, completely outside your control. This simple differentiation, when truly understood, radically transforms your approach to relationships. There's a crucial difference between two scenarios. One where a woman you haven't yet established a significant connection with ignores you, and one where someone you've already shared moments of emotional or physical intimacy with becomes distant. Each situation demands nuances in applying Stoic principles, although the philosophical foundation remains unchanged. Evolutionary psychology shows us that the dynamics of interest and disinterest don't arise in a vacuum. They are influenced by a complex interplay of biological, psychological, and social factors that have shaped human behavior for thousands of years. When you understand these forces, you can respond to them with wisdom instead of reactivity. The first Stoic move you should cultivate is conscious emotional detachment. Don't confuse this with coldness or emotional suppression, approaches that merely mask unprocessed feelings. Stoic detachment represents a state of mental clarity where you fully acknowledge your emotions without being dominated by them. When that read notification appears on the screen and the reply doesn't come, carefully observe what happens inside you. Maybe a wave of anxiety arises, a tightness in your chest, racing thoughts seeking explanations. The average man completely identifies with these reactions, becoming a hostage to his turbulent inner world. You, as a practitioner of Stoicism, observe these same reactions with healthy detachment, as if watching clouds pass across the sky. This practice, similar to what we now call mindfulness, allows you to maintain emotional stability regardless of external validation. When a woman perceives that your psychological well-being doesn't depend on her responses or attention, you automatically differentiate yourself from most men she knows. In practice, conscious emotional detachment means continuing to live your life fully without letting her silence affect your day. You don't obsessively check her online status. Don't craft catastrophic stories about what you might have done wrong, nor let your productivity at work or your general mood be undermined. Modern neuroscience confirms what the Stoics discovered through observation. This emotional regulation activates the prefrontal cortex, the most evolved part of the human brain, responsible for higher executive functions. When you operate from this brain region, instead of the primitive limbic system, your decisions are more aligned with your long-term goals and core values. Paradoxically, this emotional autonomy is instinctively perceived by women as a sign of maturity and authentic self-confidence, universally attractive qualities. You may have already noticed how some people seem to naturally attract attention and respect, while others, even with objectively impressive qualities, are often ignored. The difference often lies in this emotional independence we are discussing. Remember, conscious emotional detachment doesn't mean an absence of feelings. You can still be genuinely interested in someone, appreciate their company, and wish to develop a deeper connection. The difference lies in keeping that interest free from the desperate need for immediate reciprocity. The second Stoic move that will transform your relational life is an intense focus on self-development. The ancient Stoics considered virtue, understood as excellence of character and fulfillment of human potential, as the only true good. This perspective is revolutionary in an era where external validation and momentary pleasures are often prioritized. When a woman ignores you, you have two options: waste mental energy ruminating on the situation or channel that same energy into your personal growth. The Stoic choice is unequivocally the second. This self-development should be multidimensional. On the physical level, this means committing to regular exercise, proper nutrition, and sufficient rest. Your body is the vehicle through which you experience the world. Treating it with excellence is an act of self-respect that sends a powerful message to others. In the intellectual domain, constantly seek to expand your knowledge and skills. Read challenging books, learn new skills, expose yourself to ideas that question your assumptions. Intellectual curiosity not only makes you more interesting, but also more resilient in the face of life's inevitable disappointments. Spiritually, dedicate yourself to cultivating wisdom and purpose. This doesn't necessarily involve formal religion, but certainly demands deep reflection on existential questions. What is your purpose? What values would you not compromise even under pressure? What legacy do you wish to leave? Socially, strengthen meaningful friendships and community ties. Romanticized relationships often distract us from equally valuable connections with friends, family, and mentors. The truly Stoic man cultivates a diverse and nurturing network of relationships. This systemic investment in yourself reflects the Stoic concept of oikiosis, appropriation or familiarization with our true nature. By continuously improving yourself, you not only become more attractive as a potential partner, but also find intrinsic satisfaction independent of specific romantic outcomes. Contemporary positive psychology confirms what the Stoics intuited. People with a clear purpose and significant personal projects report greater subjective well-being and demonstrate remarkable emotional resilience in the face of interpersonal disappointments. They simply have less time and energy to ruminate on rejections because they are deeply engaged in activities aligned with their core values. This focus on self-development often produces an interesting side effect. That same woman who ignored you starts to notice your evolution. She perceives how you seem more confident in social situations, how your conversation has become more interesting, how your body shows the results of consistent care. This perception is rarely verbalized, but almost always registered. However, and this is crucial, you should not embark on this journey of self-development with the primary goal of impressing or winning her back. Doing so would merely replace one form of dependency with another. The true practitioner of Stoicism seeks excellence because they consider it intrinsically valuable, regardless of its effects on others' perceptions. The third Stoic move, perhaps the most powerful and certainly the most misunderstood, is the practice of strategic indifference. This is based on the Stoic concept of adiaphora, indifferent or neutral things that are neither virtues nor vices. In Stoic philosophy, specific romantic relationships belong to this category. They may be preferable when healthy and aligned with our values, but they are not necessary for a good and virtuous life. This understanding allows you to develop a genuine disposition to accept any outcome with tranquility. Strategic indifference manifests in the ability to set clear boundaries for your emotional investment, especially in situations where there is no evident reciprocity. You remain open to new connections, stay receptive to other romantic possibilities, and crucially do not feed idealistic fantasies about winning over someone specific. This posture derives directly from the Stoic understanding that excessive attachment to specific outcomes is a source of unnecessary suffering. As Epictetus wisely observed, demand not that events happen as you wish, but wish them to happen as they do happen, and your life will go well. In practice, strategic indifference means that after reasonable attempts at communication without response, you simply move on without drama or resentment. You don't send that additional message asking for explanations. You don't create elaborate strategies to make her jealous. You don't set up camp on her social media looking for clues about her behavior. Instead, you redirect your attention to people and activities that respond with reciprocity to your interest and energy. This is not a manipulative tactic to arouse jealousy. It's a conscious decision to value connections based on mutual respect. When a woman perceives that you are not willing to pursue her indefinitely, a natural rebalancing occurs in the relational dynamic. Paradoxically, your ability to move on with serenity often sparks curiosity and sometimes renewed interest on her part. Again, it is fundamental to understand that you do not implement strategic indifference as an elaborate form of psychological manipulation. Doing so would be a complete distortion of Stoicism, transforming a virtuous life philosophy into a mere seduction tactic. Stoic indifference is authentic because it derives from a deep understanding of what is truly under your control and what truly matters in life. The consistent application of these three moves, conscious emotional detachment, focus on self-development, and strategic indifference, naturally produces a transformation in how you are perceived. The woman who previously ignored you begins to notice the absence of typical behaviors like desperate pursuit, repetitive messages, or obvious attempts to get attention. In contrast, she observes the presence of a centered, constantly developing, and emotionally balanced man. This transformation often sparks genuine curiosity and, in many cases, renews interest. However, and this point cannot be emphasized enough, the Stoic man does not implement these moves aiming for this specific effect, but as an authentic expression of his personal philosophy. The Stoic path does not promise specific results with specific people. There are no guarantees that the woman who ignored your messages for weeks will suddenly become interested after your personal transformation. And the beauty of this approach lies precisely in this uncertainty. You cultivate valuable virtues regardless of particular romantic outcomes. If she renews her interest, you will evaluate this possibility with mental clarity, free from resentment about the past or idealizations about the future. You will pragmatically consider whether a relationship with her aligns with your values and life goals, and you will make your decision based on this rational analysis, not on emotional needs or the desire for validation. If she remains distant, you will accept this reality with the same serenity, recognizing that truly valuable relationships are based on reciprocity, mutual respect, and shared values. Your inner peace and self-respect will remain intact, as they do not depend on external achievements. Let's now explore practical situations where these principles can be applied, starting with that message read but not replied to. Your first impulse might be to send another message, perhaps more emphatic or questioning. Instead, practice conscious emotional detachment, observing your reaction without acting on it. Continue your day as planned, focusing on your responsibilities and projects. If after a few days there is no response, apply strategic indifference. Don't send new messages or create excuses to initiate contact. Direct your energy towards your personal development, perhaps that online course you postponed, the workout you've been neglecting, or the book you're halfway through. At a social gathering where she seems to interact animatedly with everyone but you, again observe your internal reactions without letting them determine your behavior. Remain socially engaged with others, demonstrating genuine interest in the people around you. Practice strategic indifference by not forcing interactions with her, but remaining open should she decide to approach. A particularly challenging scenario is when there is a prior romantic or sexual history, followed by distancing. Here, emotional attachment tends to be more intense and the perceived rejection more painful. The Stoic path remains the same, although it requires greater mental discipline. Recognize the value of the shared experience without creating expectations of continuity. Practice gratitude for the positive moments without claiming future interactions. It's important to contextualize these principles considering different female personalities. Some women naturally take longer to respond to messages or show interest in less obvious ways. Others may be genuinely busy or going through personal difficulties that have nothing to do with you. The Stoic approach doesn't presume to know others' motivations, but focuses on what you can control, your own response to the situation. Physiologically, when a woman ignores us, we experience a cascade of neurobiological reactions similar to those of minor traumatic stress. Hormones like cortisol and adrenaline are released, preparing us for fight or flight. Simultaneously, the brain's reward systems, mediated primarily by dopamine, are activated by the unpredictable nature of the situation, the same mechanism that makes gambling so addictive. Understanding these biological processes allows you to recognize, this is just my brain running old evolutionary programs. I don't need to be controlled by them. This awareness, combined with practices like deep breathing, physical activity, and meditation, helps regulate your physiological response, preventing momentary emotions from dictating behaviors that contradict your long-term goals. The implementation of these 3 Stoic moves doesn't happen overnight. Like any significant change, it requires consistent practice and patience with yourself. You will make mistakes, experience setbacks, and occasionally surprise yourself acting exactly as you promised not to. When this happens, avoid self-flagellation, another non-Stoic behavior, and simply return to the path with renewed determination. A particularly effective practice is the daily examination of conscience, a technique valued by Stoics like Seneca. Before sleep, set aside a few minutes to reflect on your interactions of the day, especially those related to women who spark your interest. Where did you demonstrate conscious emotional detachment? Where did you fail to maintain this posture? How did you invest in your self-development today? At what moments did you practice strategic indifference successfully? These reflections, done without harsh judgment, but with relentless honesty, significantly accelerate your progress. It's essential to differentiate the Stoic approach from other strategies often recommended for dealing with female distancing. Unlike manipulation tactics aimed at creating jealousy or insecurity, Stoicism promotes integrity and respect for the other's autonomy. Unlike passive-aggressive approaches like the silent treatment, it emphasizes genuine serenity based on emotional self-sufficiency. Perhaps most importantly, Stoicism is not a temporary technique you apply until you get the desired female attention, only to then return to dysfunctional patterns. It is a coherent life philosophy that, when truly internalized, fundamentally transforms your relationship not only with specific women, but with all aspects of existence. Consider the contrast between 2 men facing the same situation. Both send messages to a woman they are interested in, and both are ignored. The first, dominated by insecurity and the need for validation, bombards her with additional messages, becomes visibly dejected, shares his discontent with friends, and spends hours analyzing possible reasons for the rejection. The second, guided by Stoic principles, notes the lack of response, accepts that it's beyond his control, focuses on meaningful activities, and remains open to other social connections. Even if the woman eventually responds to both, the established dynamic will be radically different. With the first, she perceives, even if unconsciously, that she has disproportionate power over his emotional state. With the second, she recognizes she is interacting with someone emotionally autonomous, for whom she represents a potential positive addition to life, not a desperate need. The growing popularity of content about Stoicism in contemporary culture is no coincidence. In an era characterized by instant gratification, constant validation through social media, and often unrealistic expectations about relationships, this ancient philosophy offers a necessary counterpoint, a call to self-mastery, patience, and broadened perspective. Applied to relationships with women, it represents a dignified alternative to the prevailing narratives that oscillate between desperate subordination and cynical manipulation. The Stoic path simultaneously honors your intrinsic value as a man and female free will, establishing the foundations for potentially healthier and more balanced connections. It's important to emphasize that Stoicism does not promote genuine indifference towards women or relationships. On the contrary, it recognizes the value of significant human connections, including romantic ones, as preferable elements that, while not essential for a virtuous life, can certainly enrich it when based on healthy foundations. What this philosophy rejects is the culturally ingrained idea that gaining the attention of a specific woman constitutes some kind of definitive validation of your worth as a man. This belief, often implicit but rarely examined, is at the root of desperate behaviors that not only fail in their immediate objectives, but also compromise your personal growth and dignity. The implementation of these 3 Stoic moves, conscious emotional detachment, focus on self-development, and strategic indifference, gradually produces an internal transformation that inevitably reflects in your external presence. Your body language becomes naturally more relaxed and confident. Your verbal communication demonstrates clarity of purpose and an absence of excessive need for approval. Your overall behavior conveys a powerful subconscious message. I am okay with myself, with or without your interest. This transformation rarely goes unnoticed. It's common that not only the specific woman who ignored you, but several others in your social circle begin to show renewed curiosity and interest. Again, this should not be your primary goal, but it is a frequent side effect worth recognizing. When, not if, but when this happens, you will face a new challenge, maintaining Stoic principles even when you start receiving the attention you previously desired. Many men prematurely abandon the path at the first sign of female interest, quickly returning to patterns of behavior based on insecurity and external validation. This is precisely the moment to reaffirm your commitment to the Stoic philosophy, recognizing that it represents a superior way to navigate not only rejections, but the entire complexity of human relationships. In the moments of loneliness that will inevitably arise on your journey, remember the words of Marcus Aurelius: withdraw into yourself. The ruling faculty is content with itself when it does what is just, and so secures its own tranquility. This ability to find contentment in your own company, without excessive dependence on female validation, is not only philosophically sound, it is profoundly attractive. Women, like all human beings, are instinctively drawn to those who demonstrate existential completeness, not to those who treat them as missing pieces in an incomplete emotional puzzle. On your journey of implementing these principles, you will discover something remarkable. What began as a strategy to deal with female indifference eventually transcends this limited objective entirely. You will find yourself practicing these same moves in all challenging areas of life, professional, family, social, reaping benefits far beyond the original relational context. This is the true promise of Stoicism, not just potentially better, romantic relationships, but a life fundamentally more aligned with timeless values, less subject to the whims of external circumstances, and more characterized by inner serenity and clear purpose. The woman who once ignored you may or may not become a significant part of this life. In either case, you will move forward with dignity, integrity, and a deep sense of self-respect, qualities that, ironically, become increasingly rare and consequently more attractive in the contemporary landscape of relationships. The Stoic path is not easy. It goes against deeply ingrained evolutionary impulses and persistent cultural narratives. It requires constant self-examination, mental discipline, and the courage to face uncomfortable truths about ourselves. But the rewards, emotional freedom, mental clarity, and more authentic relationships easily outweigh the challenges. So, the next time that message goes unanswered or that look isn't returned, remember, you have a choice. You can react like most, letting yourself be dominated by insecurity and the need for validation. Or you can choose the Stoic path, observing your reactions without being controlled by them, channeling energy into your personal development, and practicing strategic indifference towards what is beyond your control. This choice, seemingly small at the moment, holds the potential to transform not only your relationships with women, but your entire life experience. As Epictetus would say, first say to yourself what you would be, and then do what you have to do.